calories you need to eat right now to maintain you in your current body composition, your current weight. So a deficit would be less than that, a surplus would be slightly greater than that. And you don't need a big surplus. A lot of times, like in the bodybuilding world, you'll hear about like dirty bulks where it's just, it's my off season, I'm bulking and I'm eating all the food, and you can put on a lot of muscle. I did it in college, but I also put on a lot of fat. So I was a thrower at UW for just a semester, but my coach was like, you gotta get bigger. And so I was just like, okay, how do I get bigger? I ate, and I ate a lot. I actually didn't even party a lot my freshman year. So people are like, oh, it's just all the beer you're drinking. No, I ate at Eds and Pops at UW and like full sugar this and like double serving that. I was eating my dorm room like when I wasn't even hungry, and I went from 220 to 260 really fast. And I got a lot stronger because we were lifting heavy, we were having 2-a-days. I've never been stronger in my life, but I also had some extra layers on me. And that was what I would call a dirty bulk. Like I wasn't tracking calories, I was just like eating whatever's in front of me and lifting hard and training hard. And yeah, I was super strong, but I also would like sweat. If I was doing this talk right now, or back then, I'd be like profusely sweating right now. Like my body was like, what the hell did you just do? Okay, so, oh, did we lose our virtual peeps?
Yeah, we got a recording now. There was nobody on a registered parking it.
Oh, well, kind of want to give it a thumbs down.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
well.
Well,
That was
They
kind
should
of
have been.
good.
snooze, you lose. That was like the teaser, right? Now you gotta pay for the rest of the...
Yeah.
Right before he was gonna give us the magical numbers. No. Look, I always say we live in the day and age of information, right? There are no secrets. You can go online, you can go to ChatGPT and say, I'm a 35-year-old male, 200 pounds, I wanna lose weight, set my macros, set my calories for me, and it'll actually give you a pretty good number. That's not what I do. I help clients, I help them set their macros, but it's much more than that. And we'll get to that. So if you want to calculate numbers, the most basic one is your maintenance calories are right around body weight times 14 to 15. Again, that is a super simplified number. You might do that math and be like, whoa, that looks way too high. You might do that math and be like, whoa, that looks way too low. That's super, super generic and simple. You know, that's essentially like this calculation right here is what I went to school for 4 years for. No. They finally told us, senior year, 14, 15. Mifflin St. George, that's an equation that I believe the TDEEcalculator.net is based on that equation. So instead of like manually typing in all the numbers, just go to TDEEcalculator.net. I'm a big fan of tracking actual numbers, tracking actual data. Where are you at? So all my clients, when they first start with me, they do something called week 0. And that's where I say, just log your food. I don't care what you eat. I don't care how much you eat. I just need to see where you're currently at. And then it's always interesting because of something called the Hawthorne effect. Does anyone know what that is? That's like when people know they're being watched, they change their behaviors. So it's like, even if I'm like, hey, I don't care what you're doing, just put all your food in there. If you're eating all this and drinking all that, put it in there. And then they check in, they're like, wow, I did my week 0 and I lost 2 pounds because I knew you'd be looking at it. I'm like, damn it, that's not what I wanted. Like, but it's true. So like, I need to know where you're starting. And that's what I always call point A. Point A is where are you at currently? Because we're gonna work from there. A lot of times when you look up a diet plan or one of these numbers, that might be point Z. How do we get from A to B, B to C? I'm pretty sure that's coming up here. Appropriate rates. And again, this is a big, it depends. So appropriate rates of fat loss, if you have, and again, this is really subjective. If you have more than 20 pounds to lose, and that's not an exact number, 1% per week is relatively appropriate. If you have less than 20 pounds to lose, 1/4 to 0.5% per week is appropriate. And you might say, well, what if I want to lose faster? You can, but again, going back to it's going to be harder to maintain. So this, for this 8-week challenge, it might be faster than this. But then have these numbers in your mind for after the 8 weeks. And please, like, keep those in mind. If I can't stress anything enough today, it's like, have these numbers especially in mind. Cause I get clients that check in all the time, and like in their check-in form, it's like, what didn't go well? And they're like, oh, I barely lost weight this week. And then I look at their numbers, I'm like, you lost half a pound. Like, that's amazing. Like, extrapolate that out to a year, that's 26 pounds in a year. What would your life be like if you were 26 pounds lighter? You know, so barely losing weight is still losing weight. And so again, less than 20, there are some coaches who talk about like certain, even more specific demographics, like women around 150 pounds or less. If you still want to lose weight, like that's the slow rate. It's a slow rate. For muscle gain, this is a little different. If you're totally new to lifting, if you're totally new to trying to build muscle, you can slap on muscle pretty quick, but then it slows down. And it really slows down. The more you're lifting, 3 to 6 pounds in a year. But that's also too like pure focus on building muscle, like strength training to the max, pushing the weights to the max, sending what we call the anabolic signal to grow muscle. So
When you say the fat loss 1% per week, are you talking about 1% of your current weight?
Mhm.
Okay.
yeah, so again, like I'm 200, losing 2 pounds per week. But then again, I would, yeah. So yeah, I don't like, yeah, I'm not trying to like brag about that. But it's funny because like the BMI charts, right? Like I'm pretty sure based off my height, I'm overweight on my BMI, and it's like it says I should be between like 175 and 185. I'm like, I think I would have people like asking if I was okay. Like it's BMI operates under a bell curve. It makes sense for most people. The counter argument's always like, well, you know, I always use Clay Matthews, dating myself a little bit, but you know, everyone's like, well, Clay Matthews was like 240 pounds as a middle linebacker and just ripped, like muscles, but he was obese on his BMI. So like BMI is garbage. I'm like, well, your average American male also doesn't look like Clay Matthews. Like, you gotta remember, it's under a bell curve. Like, yeah, that dude was a freak. Like 240 pounds, probably like 2% body fat.
Quick question.
Yes.
Most of us did a scan at the start, and it had a metabolic rate, which had a calorie count. Would that be like a safe, like maintenance?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's an accurate starting point. And so with the scan, was it the
It's in body.
in body? So that's with the handheld and the feet. So what it's doing is called bioelectrical impedance. It sends a very small current through your body. The more muscle you have, the more water you have in your body, so the current gets through you faster, and then it runs a calculation based off of calculation. So it's a good starting point. So you could easily start there, and it should give you like your resting metabolic rate, but then also too, you gotta remember your activity factors, and I'll get into that too. But yes, you could start there if you wanna go the numbers route and play around. So getting into a little bit of the emotional, and this is kind of back to the mindset thing, because honestly, this is for both tracks, even if the goal is muscle building, again, because it's not just gaining muscle, the goal is to gain muscle with gaining the least amount of body fat. The emotional eating side of things. And I think last year I got called out by someone because I used the example of the girl sitting like eating ice cream, crying in the kitchen. And the person was like, why does it have to be a girl? I'm like, because that's what it always is in the movies. I'm not saying that's what it is. That's just what it always is. But, you know, the other example, when our first daughter was born and we were at the hospital, my wife and her were like sleeping, sort of. I was sitting on the couch at like 3 a.m. watching a replay of the Packer game, and my mom had brought me like a huge gallon bag of her homemade Chex Mix. I'm sitting there watching the Packer game, I'm just like, and I got like half of that gallon bag gone. I was like, oh, I'm stress eating. I just became a dad and I have no clue what I'm doing. So, you know, and I was happy. I was excited. I was scared. I was nervous, like emotions. You're stressed, you're sad, you're happy, you're bored, you're tired. The biggest thing is reminding that food's not gonna fix that. And again, easier said than done. I can sit here and be like, oh, food's not gonna fix it. But sometimes it does feel pretty good. So, like these are just examples. You know, if you're feeling depressed or lonely, what can you do besides eating? call a friend, go talk to someone, you know, and these are hard things to do. I mean, we've all been in these states, and, you know, I don't know about you, but some of these are hard for me to admit. Like, I'm fine, I'm good. And it's like, no, you talk to someone, you know, go play with your pet or watch a comedy, like do something to cheer you up. You're feeling anxious, like go get a workout in. So you want to talk about like two opposite ends of the spectrum. It's like instead of consuming calories, go burn some more calories. Like there is a dopamine hit that you get from exercise. Again, it might not be your best workout because you know you might still be thinking about whatever's stressing you out, but if you can detach from it for a little bit, that's the big thing, is creating that barrier between I'm stressed, here's the food X, Y, and Z, what's the wall that I can put up even for 10 minutes? So that's a good rule where it's like if you find yourself like all of a sudden, oh, I'm craving chocolate, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go read for 10 minutes, and then after 10 minutes, if I'm still craving chocolate, maybe I'm gonna go have a little piece. But a lot of times you might go do something else and be like, you know what, I didn't really need that. And that's, I think I got that coming up here. Oh no. So, like exhausted, bored. My favorite one is tired. Just go to bed. Like, I don't care. People like call me the old man. I like going to bed at 9 o'clock if I can. You know, and it sucks when I have like a guy's weekend and I'm like, hey guys, I'm turning in. They're like, you're going to bed. I'm like, just give me one night, just one night. And I don't care. Like, you know, I'll get razzled a little bit, but it is what it is. So many people are like, well, you know, I had to stay up to see who was on Jimmy Fallon tonight. And it's like, you can watch the highlights the next day, or you can record it and watch it like another time. You're not gonna miss anything. You know, it's like my grandma. God, she stays up till like 2 a.m. watching the news. I'm like, Grandma, stop. And then she sleeps till like noon. It's wild. But yeah, that 24-hour news cycle is something. Getting into more like the eating side of things, right? Okay, if I have to lose weight, I have to eat less food. Do those calculations, and again, if that fat loss number comes back at a number that you're like, no way, that's way too high, give it a try. But like being accurate matters, because a lot of times people will be like, well, I need to eat less calories, so this is what their lunch or breakfast or lunch looks like. And yeah, you're gonna lose weight real fast. You're also gonna probably give up real fast. You know, what it looks like a lot of times is like, oh, I was good at breakfast, I was good at lunch, and then I just like ate everything after dinner, or I was good Monday through Thursday, and then the weekend happened. And I'll get into the morality of food here in a little bit, but this one was from last year. This one just cracks me up. It's like, oh, these are breakfast bars, 90 calories. Like, that's not breakfast. That's hardly even a snack. Like, oh, it's got everything you need. I don't even know if they sell those things anymore. It's probably red dye number 3 in them. But, you know, and the American breakfasts are so carb heavy. Like, it's wild. At my daughter's school, you know, it's cool. Every kid gets breakfast, but it's like, I was looking at it, and there was one that was like 100 grams of sugar. I'm like, oh, teachers wonder why the kids can't focus. Like, so I did something about it. I'm now on a subcommittee, but anyways, yeah, I might get kicked off of that subcommittee pretty quick. But you know, if you're gonna whine about stuff and not do anything, so I was like, put my money where my mouth is.
Yeah, be the change.
So this is like kind of one of my stereotypical usual breakfasts. That was a unique scenario there. I think that's some awesome like banana bread. That's not an everyday thing, but you know, if you follow me on Instagram, I feel like I only post pictures of my breakfast because then like the day gets busy and nobody really cares about my food anyways. But I got some protein, I got some veggies, it fills me up, and then I got some higher fiber carbs usually. I've been on a big oats kick lately. Again, this doesn't mean that you have to do this. This is just what works for me. This is what I found not only helps me maintain a certain body composition, but also too taking other things into account. How's my energy after eating this meal? You know, I did like cereal as my carbs for a while because I was like, oh, I love cereal, but I was finding that by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I'm crashing, and I gotta be like on my game with clients, and then I do my workout around noon. I'm like, this is not sustainable. So I went to a higher fiber, oats, got some like flaxseed and stuff in there, and I feel better. Shocker, right? Lunches. What's the go-to lunch when you're on a diet? Salad. You know, veggies are great, but like, you know, that salad, if you literally ate that, it's like 70 calories. Again, just like those breakfast bars. Good luck. Like, good luck getting anything out of that. So I'm a big fan of bowls. I bulk prep on weekends, so this would have been like, we make a big batch of rice, we make a bunch of, you know, either grilled or roasted chicken breasts, and that's my base for the week, for lunches. And with that, I keep them like as plain as possible because, okay, I've got plain rice and I've got plain chicken with like salt and pepper on it. Then I can zhuzh it up a little bit with some black beans and some cilantro and some, you know, salsa, and boom, it's like a Chipotle bowl. Or I can take that chicken and rice and I can put, you know, red pepper in it, and I can put some Thai peanut sauce, and oh, now it's like a Thai dish, right? It's very diverse. So it's like the base ingredients that contribute to most of the macros, the carbs, the protein, are the same, chicken and rice. But you don't have to eat like plain chicken, rice, and broccoli. I've done that before. It's not fun. So adding all that stuff and having different like accessories to accessorize it is where, like, that's how you can keep diverse so you don't get bored of eating the same exact lunch every single day. But if that works for you, cool. Same thing, like this is dinner. This was like a, I don't know, some kind of bowl. Beef, my God, red meat. Nutrient dense carbs, fill in the rest, like same rules apply. So you don't need to overcomplicate these things, especially if you have easy to measure, if you do the measuring thing and the calories thing. You have your bases, right? I know exactly what a cup of cooked rice is. I know that I had 6 ounces of chicken breast on there. And then, yeah, you get maybe 50 more calories from some salsa and some cilantro or some cucumbers and probably red pepper. And then this was like a mayo sriracha sauce, so you gotta be mindful of that. But again, it's like the big things, the big rocks that are contributing, keep those simple and then diversify around that. At the end of the day, like, if you're sitting here thinking like, oh man, I don't even know where to start, like, I'm not a good chef, I'm not a good cook, you gotta go back to that slide about mindset. You're already telling yourself that you're not a good chef, you're not a good cook. I have no culinary experience. I took a food science class in college and we got to make these sweet meals. But again, it's like anything else, you practice it. We live in the information age. YouTube, there are so many cooking demos. And guess what? At the end of the day, you make something and it sucks. Cool. You never make it again. Like, don't be afraid of trying that and experimenting. Like, that's the cool thing. Cooking is an art, right? Baking is a science. If you try to change the amount of flour or salt in a baking recipe, it's gonna be flat, it's gonna be disgusting. But cooking's an art. Just play around with stuff. Play around with flavor profiles. That's one thing I created, and I'll send that out to everyone that's here. Is like a kind of cheat sheet on 5 different cuisines where it's like, okay, if you want, you know, I think this is like a Korean beef bowl, like a Korean inspired dish. You know, Korean cuisine focuses on these 4 or 5 sauces and these 5 vegetables and these, you know, 5 protein sources. So pick one from each and boom, there's your Korean beef bowl or whatever it is. Or if you want a Mediterranean themed one or more of a Spanish style one. So I did make kind of a cheat sheet for that with like the top herbs and seasonings used in each one of those culinary cuisines. And then like, well, how much do I put in it? I don't care. Like, taste it, try it out. They're not recipes. It's just a cheat sheet for what to have. So, what did you notice with all those foods? They're pretty basic on the surface. Yeah, they're whole food based, but we're still not putting morals on them. We're not necessarily having rules, and like Morpheus here, forget what you think you know. Because again, all these the diet mindset of good and bad, and this is a good food, this is a bad food, right? The only bad food is the one that like holds you up in the back alley and takes your money. I've never seen a donut do that. So And again, there are dietitians who are like, well, eating an apple. Yeah, well, I mean, if it's a good
Anytime I
donut,
see a donut, it
like
takes my money.
Greenbush,
I'm not gonna lie.
take my money.
Your donut, here you go.
Yeah. But it's like, there are dietitians who are like, there's no difference between donuts and apples. I'm like, well, that's not true. Like, it's definitely not true. However, just because you eat one donut doesn't make you a bad person. Doesn't even make you an unhealthy person. Or just because you ate one salad today doesn't make you a healthy person. So there's no good or bad foods. There are good and bad people, but you can kind of argue that there are no singular healthy or unhealthy foods. Singular, like, unless it's one that you have an extreme allergy to, right?
Everything in moderation.
Yeah, but the thing is, moderation has gotten twisted over the years too. Like,
Oh, semantics comes
yeah,
again.
it's true.
Ah.
So it's like there are plenty of healthy and unhealthy people, but overall what you do and what you consume. So if we want to label foods healthy and unhealthy, okay, I'll play that game. The more unhealthy foods you eat and the more quantity of unhealthy foods you eat, the more likely, you'll probably be unhealthy. But again, moderation, true moderation, right? The average American eats vegetables in moderation.
Sure.
The average American eats, quality proteins in moderation. And they're like, oh, well, I eat, or alcohol's one that gets me. And I drink, not often, but they're finally getting around to like getting rid of the 2 drinks a day for men is moderation. It's like, no, 2 drinks a day is like, 14 drinks in a week. In my opinion, and based off all the research, that's not moderation.
Right.
Hate me if you hate me, but I might get kicked out of Wisconsin for that one. But it's one of those things, like, moderation, yeah, it matters. I mean, if I'm a foodie, like if I'm going out for a nice dinner, I do not care what I'm eating.
Sure.
I'm getting it all. So, and I'll get into that too, because it'll blow your mind at like what a meal out can cost you, both this way and calorie-wise, actually. Keeping your sanity, right? You can't win in life if you're losing your mind. Change your thoughts and change your life. Kind of going back to that mindset. Because at the end of the day, I don't ever want your diet and food and exercise to encompass your life. It should be part of your life. Like your diet, again, going back to the definition of your diet is just what you eat. That has to be part of your life because you have to eat food to survive. But I never want people to be obsessive about it. Just like exercise. It should be part of your life, but life is much, much more than that. So going back to the food, I already touched on this. Be wary of the superlative, right? Using always, never, the worst, the best. The clickbaity articles, like the one food that experts hate or the one food that will trim your waistline. With that stuff, I would say if it truly worked like that, I'd be like selling it out of my trunk. If this supplement helped you shred fat super fast, I'd be selling it. That'd make my job a lot easier. Fitting bad foods in, and I had this example in last year. It's a little bit heavier when I took that picture, but I have a client, still work with him. Every Christmas, his mom's cute. She's now passed, but she would give her grown son, who's now 60, this giant thing of Oreos for Christmas, and he would just bring them to the gym and be like, "I can't have these in the house." And I'd be like, "Okay." I'm like, "I'm young. I'm on my feet. I can eat them," but I had this idea. I was like, I'm gonna see if I can document this, and I'm gonna eat Oreos every day and still lose weight. And so I did. I ate 3 Oreos every single day, which was 160 calories. I swapped them out for 160 calories of carbs that I'd normally be eating, put myself in a slight deficit, and I went from 212 to 208 by the time that thing was gone. I don't remember how many were in it, but 3 a day was probably like a couple weeks. So that was actually the easiest I've ever done with having Oreos in the house because I knew I was gonna have them. I planned for it, and it wasn't this like forbidden fruit that, I can never have the Oreos, but I know they're in the pantry and I know right where they are, and then you go and you're like, I'm gonna eat them all. It's like, no, I get 3 Oreos every day. Some nights I would have all 3 after dinner. Some days I would have 1 after lunch, 2 after dinner. It's like, no, I get 3 Oreos every day, and it's my sweet little treat. And there's other examples of this you can find online. Sohee Lee, she's a really good nutrition expert and coach, and she's done bodybuilding shows, and she's like teeny tiny. she did a thing where she like ate a Snickers bar every day while cutting for a bikini competition. And so like, you know, smaller female, her calories were pretty low, but she still wanted to prove that, hey, like I can fit this in for my sanity. And again, that's like moderation, right? Like we all know that Oreos on the health spectrum aren't the healthiest food, but if 160 of my daily calories were coming from this and all the other thousands were coming from whole foods, like 160 is nothing. So you could go more extreme if you want, but you don't have to.
Did you notice a change, like in your performance at the gym though, that you were supplanting those calories for Oreos versus the other? Okay.
No,
Okay.
just because, again, for me, and this is where it's like, yeah, this is just the truth, is like, for me to go from what, 212 to 208, I still am able to eat like almost 3,000 calories a day.
Sure.
So unfortunately, yeah, like I train smaller female clients who are like, that's just not fair. Like I have to eat 1,400 to lose weight and you can lose weight on 2,800. I'm like, yeah, it's not fair. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. So like, it's not fair. It sucks. Like,
Sorry.
like I would not be able to survive on 1,400, but it's like, I'm a 6'3", 200-pound man, and you are a 5'2", 120-pound female. Like we're different.
Sure.
So no, I didn't notice, but yeah, like if that was, if your calorie goal was like 1,600, so like a tenth of your calories are coming from Oreos, you might notice a difference because they're not very filling.
Yeah.
And that's, I'll kind of get into like food volume too. So the 80-20 principle, again, 3,000 calories, very basic number, but it's like 20% is 600 calories. So even if I eat 600 calories from unhealthy foods or less healthy foods, 80% is coming from pretty solid stuff. And that's where, you know, there's all these diets, and we talked about diets and flexible dieting versus if it fits your macros. Flexible dieting is more so like, yeah, you still want to eat mostly healthy foods, but you can be flexible with it as long as you're staying within your parameters of your macros and your calories. Whereas if it fits your macros crowd, they're the ones that are like, well, your goal is to get 200 grams of carbs every day, and I don't care how you get them. You can get them all from gummy bears if you want. And it's like, yeah, you can. There was a guy, a CrossFitter, that documented 40 days on YouTube where he ate nothing but ice cream products, alcohol, and protein shakes. And he lost like 20 pounds in 40 days.
He died the next year.
And he looked miserable. He looked miserable. And he even said, like in his final video, he's like in his car and he's like, he's all pale and just like,
Yeah.
he's like, I feel like terrible because like you're not getting any nourishment from that. So that's like the if it fits your macros crowd in a nutshell. You know, don't care where they come from. Carbs are carbs, fat's fat, protein's protein, which not really true. Because here you can see drinking your calories. This is one of the biggest areas I like to address if someone's goal is weight loss. Because anything you drink is not going to add to your satiety or your fullness. And you could see how, you know, over the course of a day, a hypothetical day, that's a lot of calories just from beverages. So, and not just alcohol, but, you know, water or unflavored, like I've got electrolytes in here. I'm not here to judge. And then, yeah, you know, you kind of pick where you want those calories to come from. So, when it comes to alcohol, I always get asked, like, well, what's the lowest alcohol or lowest calorie alcohol idea? And it's like, well, a shot of most liquors is like 70, 80 calories. And if you're mixing it with club soda and a lime, then it's about 70 to 80 calories. Now the body metabolizes it a little bit different, so there's some caveats there. But again, it's like the healthier you want to be overall, that is one thing where it's like, yeah, the less alcohol you drink, the better. I have no problem using that superlative because it's pretty well-known fact. I mean, what was it, just like the other week, the FDA finally was like, oh yeah, alcohol.
It's a poison.
It's a poison, it's linked to like 7 different cancers. It's like, oh,
Duh.
like, we knew that, right? Like, why is this, you know, anyways. So yeah, here's like dining out, right? When you're not in control of your food. So I took this picture a couple weeks ago. We had date night. The food was amazing. It was so expensive though.
Where'd you go?
I don't don't know if I can say out loud. But we had gift cards. We had gift cards from Christmas,
Okay.
and I still had to pay $150, and we didn't get anything like crazy.
Rare?
Not rare.
Tornado.
We're
All
gonna
right,
stick on
what
this,
was
so you
it?
just
It
tell
was
us.
Draper Brothers. It's a
Okay.
newer one.
See, I'm new to town.
It's okay. So it's where Blue Marlin used to be. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk food for a second. The
Okay.
food was great. Again, like the food was amazing.
$150.
The ambiance was beautiful. The service was fantastic. It was freaking expensive.
Yeah.
Like I can make a pretty good steak.
Ooh.
I told my wife, I was like, I think I'm done getting steak at restaurants for a little while. Like,
It's like I married you for
I'm pretty good at steak. Hey, you get a meat probe, the meter, it's a Bluetooth thermometer.
Just got it this Christmas.
Game changer. It's a cheat code. It is a cheat code. You're gonna love it. Like, again, I made these killer steaks on Christmas Day. My family was like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty good. So anyways, our dinner, what we got was, okay, we each had 2 cocktails. I got a steak, my wife got a steak. I added on the 2 scallops, which were insanely good, but insanely expensive for 2 scallops.
Yeah.
And then we split a wedge salad, and we shared the broccolini, and we didn't even have dessert. How many, and again, I did not log this meal, to be fair. I wasn't like, okay, I gotta get on my food scale, like, hang on, honey. I logged it after the fact. I was like, okay, I had this. You know, steak is pretty easy to track, right? I knew it was an 8-ounce filet, like 8 ounces filet. How many calories do you think I consumed at that meal?
25.
That's pretty good.
Ugh.
2,000, right?
You
And-
win.
And like I put, I was like, oh, but at least it was low carb, right? But, you know, so 8-ounce filet, no matter what you think, like filet is actually a fattier cut.
Yeah.
It's just very well marbled and it's very ingrained in there. And the other thing too, if you have ever worked in food service or ever been in a kitchen, when they're cooking that steak, they've got it in like a pan
Yeah.
and they're just spooning butter over it. Oh, that's why it's so good.
So good.
So like I just guesstimated like 3 tablespoons of butter. I don't know, that's absorbed in there. Plus what was on top of the broccolini. Oh yeah, and then we did. Okay, so I had 2 old fashions and then, yeah, see, I don't even remember this night. That's how little I drink anymore. Then we came back into town and we were like, oh, my parents had the girls for the night, so I'm like, let's go get another drink. And one turned into 2 and yeah.
You Ubered home, I go. Yeah.
We were able to walk home. Yeah, we
Wisconsin
were within walking distance of our house. That's why we came back home. Yes. So yeah, I did have 2 glasses of red wine too, which after eating all that and having old fashions was a terrible idea. But that's just like, in my opinion, that's not that crazy of a meal.
Right.
Like, I mean, it adds up, and so it's low carb. The more you control, the moral of that story is the more you're in control of your food, of your cooking, knowing exactly what's in your food, the more accurate you're gonna be in any of this stuff. It doesn't mean don't go and eat out. It doesn't mean don't treat yourself to things. It's just, if I have clients, again, who eat out a lot for, you know, work lunches, business meetings and this, I'm like, well, you gotta really know what's in your food, because the chef doesn't care about your macros, right? Even if you go to like a fast food restaurant where you can look up the macros and like, okay, a McDonald's quarter pounder with cheese is roughly this many calories. The person flipping the burger doesn't care if they accidentally put a second slice of cheese on there, or, you know, it's not perfectly measurable. McDonald's might be because they run such tight shit. But what I mean is like, you don't know what you don't know. And I don't know that there was 3 tablespoons of butter spooned over that steak and absorbed into those juicy fibers, but I could assume. And then the broccolini, was pretty like greasy looking. Like it wasn't just steamed, I can tell you that. It's delicious. But so, you know, the ownership, when you're in control, you can make things happen. So again, cooking at home is not the worst thing to do. If you're like, I suck at cooking at home, do something about it. You will learn. You will teach yourself. Like, just practice. You're never gonna be perfect at things. If you are eating out, plan ahead, look at the menu. I always recommend finding that balance, right? It's not well, I'm on a diet, so I'll get the salad with the grilled chicken. If that's not gonna satisfy you one bit, you're probably gonna go and eat more. So find something that's in the middle. Like, that looks like something I would enjoy, and also it's maybe not the heaviest calorie option, like the, white sauce pasta with, all the fatty goodness in it, right? Like, and then when it comes to the sides, as for the veggies, that's always my thing. I always use the example, like if I go to like a burger place or like the Great Dane, it's like I really want that like gourmet burger. I want it with like all the toppings. But then when they're like, hey, what would you like for your side? It's like I reluctantly just say it's steamed vegetables and like kind of hang my head in shame. Because I really want the French fries. I love French fries, but it's like I really want the burger. I will have the vegetables and I'll suck it up. Because even if I'm like, well, I'll get the fries and I'll only eat half of them. No, I'm not. Like, I'm gonna pick at them, and you gotta know yourself is what it comes down to. Another thing I like to implement, this is something I recently, I don't remember if it was a Facebook talk or my newsletter, but having like red X days, where if you're looking at the whole month, now these are not days where it's like, I'm gonna eat whatever I want, I'm gonna pig out, but it's days where you're like, you know what, I might have something planned that night for dinner, it might be a special occasion, I'm gonna give myself some grace on that day. And again, so, that was date night. This was Milwaukee last weekend. That was an awesome dinner too. This is my upcoming friends weekend, where, like I said, it's an unhealthy, like those are full days. I mean, I am in control of breakfast because I offer to cook breakfast because all the old guys that come up would be fine with like cereal and Little Smokies for breakfast. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna make some eggs. But again, how many of these days would you have on your calendar? There's no magical number, but I always say if you could have 3 or 4 of them, and then the rest of your days you're pretty well in control, you're gonna be happy with your results. But even within these days, like that date night, that was dinner, 2,000 calories at dinner. I didn't starve myself the rest of the day, but I had a normal breakfast. I probably had a little bit lighter of a lunch, but again, some coaches will say like bank all your calories for dinner and just live off of like black coffee and water up until dinner. It's like, well, good luck. Because you gotta know yourself. I know I would get into that situation and be like, we're ordering an appetizer, we're eating this, I'm eating this, because I am ready to like eat my own fingers, I'm so
You're
hungry.
not going out anymore because you.
Yeah, there's a-
You were hangry.
Yeah, exactly. Like we crashed the car because I was like passing out from starvation. No. So again, these are not like total gluttonous pig out days, but it's just days where you're like, yeah, I'm cool with whatever happens, and I'm gonna still be in control of what I can be in control over. You do this every month, 3-4 days, you're gonna be pretty solid. Now, if you did this and you find all these red X's on your calendar, then you have to go back and strategize. And be like, okay, what do I need to change here? What am I willing to swap out, or what am I willing to be different? Because again, if you're not happy with your current situation, you're currently in your current situation because all the decisions you made up until that point. So, if I always use the example, it's like, look, is this your birthday celebration? Eat the cake, drink the drink, whatever makes you happy on your birthday. Is this just a random wine Wednesday? Like, do you have to have wine Wednesday every Wednesday? I mean, again.
It's in the title.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you want to do, or it's like, okay, not to be like super stereotypical with Wisconsin, but it's like, oh, I'm in a darts league, I'm in a bowling league, and it's like, well, then we got to get pitchers of beer, we got to get wings.
Football.
Yeah, volleyball leagues, right? I got enough clients. I'm like, do you have to like get a pitcher of beer every time you go and play volleyball? Yeah, softball, bowling,
You've asked a
darts,
question I can't
trivia.
answer. I can't answer.
So-
No way to know.
In closing, the biggest message is to take away. Take ownership. Like, I got myself into this, I can get myself out of it. It's a very powerful thing to say. Don't go to the extremes. Play the long game. That being said, 8-week challenge, buckle down and get work done. Get educated on some nutrition basics. If you're watching this and you're like, I don't know what a carb is, I don't know what a protein is, we're in the information age. Or ask me. Like, I always say, it's kind of like when your parents are like, I'd rather have you hear it from me than your friends at school. I'd rather have you hear it from me than some influencer online, because you never know what you're going to get. There's a lot of good people out there, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm the most educated, the most knowledgeable, but I don't know, I give it out pretty straight. Enjoy foods that are meant to be enjoyed, when they're meant to be enjoyed. Again, crushing birthday cake on your birthday, hell yeah. You know, I was, one of my favorite lines, I don't even remember where I picked it up, but it was like, if you can't enjoy birthday cake on your child's birthday, that diet's not for you. You know, I want you, like, the last thing I want is your kid to see mom or dad being like, oh, no, mom, dad's on a diet, I can't have this. It's like, no, like, you're just gonna create that diet culture for a whole new generation. You know, so yeah, enjoy the cake. But then what do you do the next day? You know, we've got my daughter's birthday party tomorrow. We're getting cupcakes for all the kids. I'm gonna be like handing those out to all the other parents, be like, take more, like, I'm gonna eat one, I'll probably eat two. Like, it's my daughter's birthday party. But then what? You know, we've already paid for them. I'm not gonna be able to return like 12 half-eaten cupcakes and be like, can I get my money back for these? Like, so I'm gonna pawn them off on people. If my daughter wants to keep one, if they wanna keep one, if the girls wanna keep one, that's fine. But for me, I've got a plan. Those are not my cupcakes anymore. It's like Halloween. I take my dad tax. Luckily, neither one of my girls likes Reese's peanut butter cups, which is wild. Like, I know. I joke. I'm like, we should probably do like a paternity test because like, they might not be my girls. But I'm like, okay, I will take your Reese's cups. I eat all the Reese's cups, and then I'm done. And then I just tell myself, like, that's not my candy. And it's just that little mindset shift where it's like, I don't take things that aren't mine. That is their candy. They earned it. They went door to door. That's not my candy. And I don't know, just saying that out loud keeps me from like, I know where it is. I could go and be like, oh, Dad's gonna take a little bit more. But I'm like, no, it's not mine. I don't take things that aren't mine.
It reminds
So-
me of last year when you said the kitchen's closed.
Yes, that's another good one. Just those little mantras where, you know, the kitchen's closed. That's worked with multiple clients who struggle with eating after dinner. You know, late night snacking. We all do it. You don't late night snack on like broccoli and chicken. It's usually things that are like salty, sweet. Like I had some pistachios last night. I don't know why we bought them because like nuts are one of my downfalls. But yeah, like kitchen's closed. Or for me, it's like, dude, you're gonna survive. You just ate dinner. Like, yeah, I could easily eat a whole bowl of mixed nuts right now, but you're fine. Kitchen's closed. That's one that's worked with many clients where it's like, hey, if your kitchen was a restaurant and you wanted to eat at 8 o'clock, but the restaurant closes at 6, it's closed. You're not gonna break down the door and go in the kitchen and fire up the burners yourself. At least I hope not. So, the last thing, use common simple sense. One of my biggest goals with everyone is to try to simplify things as simply as possible. Because there's all this noise out there, there's all these, and again, don't get me wrong, like there are individual scenarios that matter. But overall, like, keep it simple. Whole foods, you can't go wrong. Eating more volume, right? You know, looking back at those Oreos, okay? If Oreo's about this big, 3 of them are about this tall. Okay, I can eat 160 calories in something that's this big. On the flip side, what does 160 calories worth of broccoli look like?
Right.
I don't even know, but it's probably like this. I'm not saying to go and eat 160 calories worth of broccoli, but that's gonna fill me up a whole lot more than those 3 Oreos that I could probably fit in my mouth with one bite. So that's like volumetrics, right? Volume. One thing I have had clients do where they're, you know, I'm like, okay, go buy the biggest chicken breast you can find at the grocery store. It's gonna be like 80 grams of protein, guaranteed. Like you can get some huge chicken breasts, and then buy a bag of frozen broccoli. That's like 3 servings. Try eating that for your lunch. Like that lunch would only be about 400, maybe 500 calories. You will be so sick of chewing and you'll be so full. Cause I've had people where I'm like, yeah, your lunch has to be about 400, 500 calories. They're like, oh, I don't think I can eat that little. I'm like, you gotta be smart with your choices. And I've done it. Again, it's not sustainable. It's boring, it's bland, it's gross, but just try it. Like, measure it out. This is a 10-ounce chicken breast and like 4 cups of broccoli. You're going to slow down and be like, I'm done. Like, I'm so full. And you barely ate any calories. Like, it's protein and fiber. So,
Wasn't that like a dietary method in the 50s? Chew your food like 20 times a
Yeah.
well, it's actually a good, like, it's a good practice. I mean, we're all so busy and rushed though. Like, I can't sit here and be like, yes, I sit down and I dine for an hour at every meal. No, I mean, I scarf my food down way too fast, but slowing down is helpful. It takes time for your stomach to tell your brain, to tell your stomach that you're filling up. So yeah, eating higher fiber and more voluminous foods helps with that, right? It helps you slow down. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's just calorie control. So yeah, in a perfect world, you know, if you've ever been to Europe, Italy, you like sit down for dinner and it's like a 4-hour process.
Yeah.
And then people come back from Italy and they're like, I lost weight. And they're like, I ate so many carbs. And it's like, well,
And they drink wine.
there's a lot to be
And
said
they-
about that. There's a lot of factors. Honestly, there's a lot of factors that they've got going over there that we don't. But slowing down is one of them. Just like, and it's tough because, and I can be done, and if anyone needs to leave. But now is the part where I go on tangents. I try not to rant too much. But so from the day that we're born, we are intuitive eaters, right? If you have kids, if you know people who have kids, babies eat on demand. Like, that baby's crying, you gotta feed that baby. And then the baby stops when the baby's satisfied. As soon as we start introducing things like time schedules and eat your food or you don't get dessert, that starts to screw with our intuitiveness. And in a perfect world, we wouldn't have to track macros. We wouldn't have to track calories. We would just be intuitive. We would eat what's in front of us. And it's a great idea. It's a great thought, but we also live in an environment that's not built for intuitive eating. If you're intuitively eating whole foods and you're growing your own produce and you're, going down to your local farmer to get chicken and eggs, you can be pretty intuitive with that. But how do you eat Snickers bars and Oreos and donuts intuitively when there's so many calories in such a little amount that doesn't occur in nature? If that makes sense. So I'm not saying it's bad. Like, I'm not perfect. Like, last night we were just telling our younger daughter, who's going through this phase of like wants to do everything at dinner except eat. We're like, just eat your food. Just please eat your food. No, we're eating your food right now. And it's like, yeah, but again, try not to play the whole like, if you don't eat your dinner, you don't get dessert, because you don't want to create rewards. Timelines, right? Like, when I grew up, dinner was always at 5:30. It's like, you don't eat at 5:30, you're on your own. I'm not saying that my parents screwed me up or anything, like, but it's those timelines, right? It's like, and you start to do that, and it starts to like mentally affect you. Like, when I was gaining weight in my bulking days, I would eat like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at 8 o'clock every night, because I could just like crush 800 calories like that. And then when I decided I didn't need to be 260 pounds, that's the first thing I cut out. And it was wild. Like, the clock would strike 8, and I'd be like in the kitchen, like getting ready to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like, I need this sandwich. Like, my brain was so trained, like Pavlov's dog,
The routine.
to be like, clock strikes 8, peanut butter jelly time. And so, yeah, that was hard. And it's, all these like, peanut butter jelly.
Yeah.
That little banana. Yeah. Peanut butter jelly time. That was like the good days of the internet.
Breaks out.
So yeah, intuitive, all that stuff is great. Keep it simple. But again, having those boundaries and having that baseline of education is very helpful. Any questions? And these can be specific to the challenge too. I know I kind of kept that broad. And again, if you have specific questions, you don't want to ask them in front of everyone, you can reach out. But I'll also be sending out resources as well. Yes?
So, one thing I have in the morning is fresh fruit and